Did you violate this child in retaliation for the controlling, unhealthy relationship you were in?
No.
Are you sitting here saying that the circulation of this STD that the child ended up contracting was not from you?
I feel that it came in a way when it did come from me. It came orally.
Okay. All right.
Because I had performed.
Now keep in mind, this DA, they were holding the royal flush. He literally transmitted a disease that can be traced back to him, to his biological daughter. But they felt that they should give a plea deal. 36 total months. But wait, I'm not done, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know that this man only recently was also convicted for killing someone? Yes, I don't know. I'm not making it up. He was arrested on June 21st, 2022 for a hit and run homicide that happened on November 7th, 2021. He got away with it for like 8 months before being caught, before killing a man. And you know what they sentenced him to that? They sentenced him to 60 days, 5 years probation. Now, while he is spending a few days in jail for killing a man and disappearing for 7 months until they finally caught him, he gets arrested for this crime. Now, you would think that this might be enough, but no, his jacket is full of crimes, armed robberies and whatnots. He's a dangerous, dangerous man. But apparently, a 3-year sentence will suffice. Make that make sense. Now, this hearing, it's one of the worst that we'll see. No responsibility, denial. He's the poor victim, lying. Let's see how the parole board rewards such a villain.
Mr. Tolliver, good morning. Can you hear us?
Yeah, let me turn my hearing aid up a little bit.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're about to begin, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, my name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today is December 30th, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Parole. The following board members are present this morning and by stating the name for the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
Good morning, Robert Sazowskis.
Nancy Turner, good morning.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record, sir.
My name is Timothy Tolliver. My inmate number is 411-725.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Mr. Timothy Tolliver, 411-725. He is serving a sentence of 15 years, execution suspended after 36 months with 10 years of probation to follow for sex assault 2 and risk of injury to a child. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of June 18th, 2024 at 50%. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and showed he has completed short track sex offender program to date, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. The offender overall score for the SRT falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Tolliver. I
Yes, ma'am.
apologize. Not me. Hold on a minute. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender overall score for sexual offense recidivism fall within the low range. Now, Mr. Tolliver, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. Thank you. You may begin, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm autistic and I suffer really bad with panic disorder. So I'm like trying to. I didn't last night. They didn't wake me up for my medication, so it's kind of hard for me this morning. Thank you for allowing me your time to speak today and affording me this opportunity to express my remorse for hurting so many people with my past actions. As I speak, please keep in mind that I don't express emotion in a neurotypical manner as I'm autistic. And for those reasons, it would be wrong to write me off as lacking any remorse or unapologetic. I'm not here for sympathy. Instead, I only ask for you to have an empathetic determination, as sympathy is an emotional reaction and empathy is action based on the understanding of a person's situation. The truth is, I feel just the opposite of unempathetic or unremorseful. I have a hole forever empty in my chest, robbing me of every breath, no matter how deep I gasp. A sinking feeling and cramping in my gut that won't go away. Any thought of the events that led up to this day causing bouts of nausea and uncontrollable heart palpitations to the point I vomit or pass out. Daily panic attacks because I get tired at night knowing it will be another night of night terrors or PTSD nightmares reliving the traumatic events I've endured over these past 2 years of incarceration. The truth is, I'm immeasurably remorseful. Over not just the predicament I find myself in now, but of my actions and decisions resulting in breaking the trust and hearts of everyone that I've ever cared for, knowing nothing I do will ever reverse the hurt or undo what was done. I wish I can change the past, but the world doesn't run on wishes, only action. And unfortunately, no amount of apologies can fix what I've broke, just as no amount of time incarcerated can replace what's been lost. I apologize anyway, knowing time does heal a wound, yet experiencing it can create new ones. Since incarceration, I've been assaulted and abused mentally, emotionally, physically, and sexually, and systematically to the point of debilitation, not just by inmates, but also by correction staff. In less than 2 years, I've lost the ability to stand and walk and the use of my right arm. And more than a year since, I've yet to have any medical treatment to correct it. I've lost 80% of my hearing, and I've lost all my possessions, 2 uncles to heart failure and my mother to breast cancer. In her last 4 months, unable to talk to me, only able to listen over the phone and not respond. I lost any chance to see her or say goodbye, to attend her funeral. There's no burial plot or no ashes, only memories and an obituary sent by mail. With my father diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, I feel I lose him too before I'm set free. I've lost so much in so little time, and with failing physical ability, there's little to lose before I feel I lose my life to it. I've watched 8 men die while I've been in here. Yet, with these fears and so much loss, my thoughts dwell on what I can't return and what I've taken and the pain I've caused because of it. I completely understand the crime for which I've pled guilty is of the most deplorable type and carries with it a stigma that will haunt me for the rest of my life. And if that's the penitence I must bear, and the cruelty and abuse and debilitation is my punishment, then please let that be it. I strive to make amends to show I'm no longer the person to have committed such deplorable act. No wishes, only action. I've taken action through education on the causes and effects in the aftermath of sexual assault and abuse, and as stated prior, I've experienced this firsthand. I've made plans on how to avoid recidivism. I plan to continue working on my own mental health, such as offender counseling in groups, treatment for my panic disorder and PTSD, as well as therapy for depression and for what I've endured while incarcerated. Since I have not been given the opportunity in prison, I like proper medical treatment and rehabilitation for my disabilities, conditions, and injuries in hopes I could be physically rehabilitated enough to return to my career as an automotive mechanic and welding fabricator. Due to my current condition and debilitated state, I would likely require some form of institutional housing or assisted living to help me to perform basic daily activities. I plan to persist on attending parenting courses and to apply at the Bureau of Rehabilitative Services again to find suitable employment to continue with my financial obligations to my 5 children. I also plan to continue learning sign language, and I'm willing to wear a GPS monitoring unit at all times in my learning sign languages so that I could actually translate and help others who lose their ear. Though my chance of recidivism is unlikely, I plan to do these things to ensure it. I plan to ensure the rehabilitation I've not and cannot get behind these walls I will get outside of them. I plan to ensure I atone for my crimes and my sins, and that I spend each moment of my freedom finding ways to repay my debt to society and to everyone harmed by my actions. I hope to advocate for the disabled and disenfranchised, to advocate for those whose rights have been violated, and to give a voice to the silence, and to show I'm forever changed, to leave a monument of improvement and not a stain on this earth. I want my children to know I've done everything in my power to make amends to what I've done, and to have left this earth with something to be proud of. When I leave here today, I want it to be known that I'm truly ashamed, I'm sorry, and I'm truly remorseful for everything and for every way I failed all of you. To my children, my family, and to society in general, I messed up and I want to fix it. I wish I can change it, but the world doesn't run on wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tolliver. We certainly appreciate the time that you took to prepare today's statement. And I just want to let you know there's 3 of us that will be asking you questions today. And once all 3 of us are done with the questions, we will deliberate on the record and give you our answer today. Okay?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm going to ask Ms. Turner to begin.
Good morning, Mr. Tolliver.
Morning.
My sympathies on the death of your mother.
Thank you.
So I just, by way of facts, want to get a few things out. So you have 3 years of the 15 you were sentenced to that you have to serve incarcerated. So when you go out, you'll have 12 years over your head while you're doing the 10 years of probation. And if you violate, you can be made to serve those 12 years. So you
Yes,
need to
ma'am.
take your conditions of probation very seriously. You
Yes,
also
ma'am.
were sentenced to 10 years on the state's sex offender registry for the crime you committed.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm glad to see you took the short track program, but you have other programs on your OAP. Let me also mention that you have a standing criminal protective order against you until the year 2044.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you understand that means?
That means if I mess up in any way, I'd be going back to jail for 10 years.
Well, you could be charged with violating the protective order, but the protective order is put in place to keep the victim, to give them some sense of safety. That
Yes.
says by law, you are prohibited from having any contact in any form,
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
electronic, in person, or through a third party.
Yes, ma'am. I
Make
understand.
sure you fully understand the restrictions that have been imposed on you as a result of the protective order. So, I understand that you don't understand why you committed this crime. So having completed the program, you don't have any insight into why you violated this child?
My reasoning, even as I think of it today, my reasoning is still beyond me. It's not that I don't know why I did it. I just don't understand why I would do such a thing like that. What I did was wrong, and I'm ashamed of it. It's hard for me to process everything all together. I
Well, don't let your feelings of shame mean that you will avoid facing the responsibility for this crime and the victimization of this child.
I'm totally responsible for what happened, and it was my actions alone that caused this situation. I just wish I could turn back the years of time and change everything, but I can't.
Well, and you know, that's so it makes it kind of meaningless. It's a hope that you can't, that it isn't possible. So, you were caught because this child ended up with a sexually transmitted disease from you. How many times did you violate this child?
One situation. Only one situation.
Okay, that's a little different than what we have documented. I read that you got your emotional needs met by forcing yourself on this child. Why didn't you look to have your emotional needs met in an adult fashion? You were 32 years old. This child was 5.
Was a sense of losing control of myself and the situation at hand.
Okay, were you under the influence?
No, ma'am, I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Okay, so how were you not in control?
Mentally, I wasn't in the right state of mind. There was so much going on between myself and my child's mother that I often get taken advantage of. And in the situation with my child's mother, she was very, very, I'm trying to think of the word, like she was very controlling. And that's how, even after this situation happened, years later, she wound up pregnant again, and she just had my child last year. She was very controlling over our relationship, and she didn't want me to be with anybody else, even though I wanted to break up with her because she's an alcoholic. And I've tried everything to provide for my children as I could, and she cheated on me many times. During the time when I ended up getting an STD, my child's mother actually was undergoing heavy courses of antibiotics for MRSA, and she had cheated with me at the time, and that's why I feel that why when she was tested for an STD, nothing showed up for her. But the other person in which she cheated on me with was my other child's mother's fiance, and he's just been arrested for molesting my oldest daughter. As I tried to explain to the police officers at the time, I indicated that I felt it was him who was involved in the situation. He's admitted to it, and he's currently actually on the run. And that's how I ended up getting an STD, because she was cheating with him and passed it on to me. I had it orally. As far as
so did you violate this child in retaliation for the controlling, unhealthy relationship you were in?
No.
Are you sitting here saying that the circulation of this STD that the child ended up contracting was not from you?
I feel that it came in a way when it did come from me. It came orally.
Okay. All right.
Because I had performed oral sex on my child's mother. And in the time she has, like, I tried to explain this to DCF, she has bags of clothes that she'll put towels and stuff, and some of her clothes and the child's clothes are mixed in that bag. She gave me something to spit into, and it happened to be a garment that the child wore for school that morning.
Oh, so the child contracting the sexually transmitted disease was inadvertent through clothing, not for you forcing your penis in the child's mouth.
That's what they said. They said that the child had gonorrhea in her vagina, and there was nothing ever done to her vagina. I've never done anything to her vagina. And I accept the fact that I played a role in her contracting this STD. And
Right, but did you force the child to perform fellatio on you?
I can promise you I did not. I can promise you I did not. Actually,
So
that's
help me,
again
Mr.
why
Tolliver, what
Yes,
are
ma'am.
you actually taking responsibility for?
I take responsibility for allowing the situation to progress to the point these things happen to my child. I take responsibility for my part in not being able to protect her. I take responsibility for all of that. I understand that I pled guilty to this crime, and by pleading guilty to this crime, I accept the fact that I must take responsibility for whatever the state's attorney says that I have done in their statements. I can't take away the fact that this happened. I can't change the facts. I wish
We've been there. We've been down this road of your regret already.
I
But
understand.
let's talk about the child. So you haven't yet taken the Voices program, but I'm going to ask you to
I've tried to
think
take
about what this child's been through. What have you put this child through?
hell. Every day, I tell you, I've personally, like I said, I've personally been sexually assaulted while I was in here. Not one time, but multiple times, because of the crimes that I committed. And I accept the fact that I pled guilty to that. Like I said, I'm
Okay,
autistic.
I'm gonna
and
stop
I have
right
an
here,
genetic
Mr. Tolliver.
memory.
I'm gonna stop right
Thanks.
here.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry for what you've been through while you're incarcerated. It's
I just-
illegal.
I'm-
Wait,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
illegal and it shouldn't be happening. I hope you are reporting it. But the question I put
reported
to
it.
you
That's why
was,
I brought paperwork. I brought paperwork to show that I reported it, and the warden
Great.
himself.
okay, there's nothing that
Nine.
we can, as a board, do about that.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I'm glad that you are looking for accountability there in the facility because you have a right to be safe while you're incarcerated. And I'm sorry that that hasn't happened for you. My question is about what the child's been through.
And that's
And
what
we
I'm trying.
started
I'm
with
sorry.
hell, and
I'm
I
sorry.
understand you're relating your own experience. But if
Yes,
we
ma'am.
could keep the focus on this
Okay.
5-year-old,
The child, I'm quite sure she deals with nightmares. My daughter deals with nightmares because of the situation. I'm quite sure she's hurt and she's confused as to why her father would let something like that or cause something like that to her. I violated her trust.
sense of security in the world,
I,
people who are supposed to take care of her.
I'm supposed to be the person to protect her.
So you,
I heard.
you obviously have some limitations that you're dealing with. Do you, upon release, anticipate being able to be employed and support yourself? Because I read you have a tremendous child support debt that you're going to have to work off.
Yes, ma'am. I've actually been. I don't know what's going on with child support, but I tried to. One child's mother. She actually put a pause. They put a pause on her, and my other child's mother from this case. They're continuing my child support every month, and I've been trying to put a stop to it, but for some reason my mail's not going out. I don't know what's going on, but. I do intend to go back to the Bureau of Rehabilitative Services, and I used them before due to my autism to help me find employment.
Okay. That might be a little bit additionally challenging because of your sex offender registry condition.
Yes, ma'am.
But what kind of work can you do, sir?
Well, I actually went to college for my for computer science, so I'm really adept in IT work and computer repair, help desk technology. I've worked at Gate Quinnipiac University at the Quinnipiac University polls before. As far as the work that I've done before, if anything, it will be computer work. Like I said, at least until I can get myself a little bit physically better to be able to get back to work as an automotive mechanic or welder.
Mr. Tolliver, are you aware of the reentry programs around the state that help formerly incarcerated with services and employment and housing?
Well, I've actually been through the tablet and what they have front to back in the tablet for as far as any programs available to the inmates here, and the programs are that I've seen in the tablet are all focused towards youth and
My question was about reentry programs out in the community. Have you ever sought out?
I've never been involved in incarceration, so I don't know of any programs out in the community that that I could join, and I would like to be applied to any program if available. But I don't know. I've even wrote the reentry counselor, but they said that that all that will be dealt with closer to my release date or once my.
Okay, but you're looking at, you've got maybe 10 months left on your sentence. So
Yes,
it's time that you start, doing some of that work yourself. Use the tablet to connect with some of the reentry programs. Where is it that you want a halfway house placement?
I would like to go to back to New Haven or Bridgeport area because that's the only
They both
areas
have very robust reentry programs.
I was going to state the reason why I'm having issue with contacting anyone is because of my hearing difficulties. I'm unable to use the telephones that they have here with my hearing aids, and I've been going through the ADA process of trying to get a TTY telephone or proper telephone that works with my hearing aids, except for the TTYs that I waited almost a year for. They just came in last week, and they still don't work because they're too noisy in the blocks for me to actually be able to use. I do use the tablet for the telephone with these headphones that they gave me, but the tablet constantly drops calls because they're like sort of really outdated and they don't have enough.
Can you use the tablet to email?
No, we don't have access to email. The tablets, we can only contact friends or family through telephone or through the messaging app. And all the programs in the tablet that they give us access to, and basically I would have to have friends or family contact them for me from the outside, or the reentry counselor. Again, the reentry counselor says that he's not going to help with anything until he
I heard you say that.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were convicted for the evading responsibility resulting in the death with the bicyclist,
in November 2021, police say Timothy Tolver hit 79-year-old bicyclist Stephen Rediker with his truck on College Street.
A black truck made a left turn from Grove Street onto College Street and then struck the rear of the bicycle.
Police released this video and photo of the truck, ultimately leading to Tolliver's arrest last month.
Did you do any programs during that brief incarceration?
I was actually only incarcerated for about a little over 15 days, and then they brought these charges and moved me here. While I was in New Haven.
So your answer is no.
No, ma'am. While I was in New Haven.
All right, because I really think you could benefit from good intentions, bad choices.
I understand
something
that.
That's going to help you think through decision making. When you're having conflict with somebody else. Healthy ways to handle that and, to basically, assume adult responsibilities in the world.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that. For some reason, the programs that they offer us, I wasn't given my program, the sex offender program, until June. which was around my parole eligibility date. And so like the programs are really backed up here. Everybody has the same problem where they try and get programs, but they're not offering.
We know that, sir. We do this day in and day out. We know the
Okay.
situation there at DOC.
Yeah, so I've been trying to take the other programs that's on
But
my
you know,
way.
when you get
Yes.
DRs like you have, that keeps you out of programs.
I
So,
completely
that
understand
it's-
that. And
it's part of the equation, sir.
I
But,
understand that.
I really want for you, Mr. Tolliver, to step back and really listen to yourself, because while I understand and really appreciate how difficult your situation is, you spend a lot of time making excuses and blaming other people, including for this crime that you're serving your sentence for. And I think if you could just step back, perhaps through good intentions, bad choices, and have some tools to, really appreciate what it means to be responsible and, continue working on your rehabilitation. Thank you for talking with me. I wish you much success, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Stauskas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I just had a couple questions. My colleague went over a lot of the things that I was going to talk to you about. But one thing that stood out to me is that you mentioned to the parole officer that you're afraid of a gate release when you leave, meaning you're afraid of how this is going to go if you go to end a sentence, right?
Yes, sir. Because I went through everything in the tablets, everything available to us to see what things are available to us when we get released, like programs or places to go. And due to the fact that I'm literally down to just the use of one arm, I walked into this facility and now I'm down to the use of one arm, and I've yet to this day received any proper medical care to even establish what's wrong. All they've been doing was just feeding me muscle relaxers to put a Band-Aid over the symptoms of my pinched spinal cords. So I'm afraid that when I get out, I won't have the mobility to be able to even get around without some sort of assistance. And I'm afraid that I'm not gonna be afforded the assistance that I need if I just get released at the gate.
So you still have probation regardless of what happens today. You understand that you have 10 years of probation?
Yes, sir.
So that's, in addition, if you potentially have parole, you have the support of the parole officers, but when you're on probation, you also have that, so those are people that you can call out for, questions or help with any of these things that you're talking about. So I understand a little bit more about your concern about gate release has to do with your medical problems. I saw also that you were denied a halfway house by corrections. They reviewed your file and denied you. Did they explain to you why?
They said that I'm eligible for the halfway house pending my taking the programs that they give to me, and yet they didn't give me the programs until very late, and then they denied my halfway house 2 weeks before I finished the short track program, which really didn't make sense. And they said that it was because of my charges, but they also said that because of my charges, I'm eligible for halfway house. So that sort of was like a contradiction of itself, which I don't understand. Okay.
I just wanted to understand that more. So it sounds like they evaluated for a halfway house prior to completing that program. So, under those circumstances, just like us, we want you to see you do the programs as evidence of change and rehabilitation, so maybe they will reevaluate you at some point. Have they said that they would for a halfway house?
They said that once they make that decision, it's final. So my only option now is parole, and they don't change the decision once it's made.
Do you feel like the sex offender program was beneficial to you? Did it help you understand or come to terms? Because you're going back and forth. I listened to you talk to my colleague. At some point, I thought you were, what I was hearing from you is you're taking responsibility. Then other points I heard something different. So I'm just trying to understand where you're at in that process. Did that program help you? The short-term sex offender program?
I'll be 100% honest. I do feel like it helped me a lot, and I wish that I can continue, because not just in learning about the actions and the reactions and the effects of sex offense, I learned about myself as to why somebody would commit such an act. And even more than just about sex offense, I learned about relationships and, you know, how expressing yourself and the rights and the wrongs. I'm sorry if I'm sorry if I ramble on.
That's okay. I just, you know, we want to, you know, it's for me to determine suitability. I want to make sure the person understands what they did wrong, that they're not going to do it again. You know, those kinds of things that, you know, you took something away from the programming that you took. And, you know, that you would probably be required to complete a sex offender program in the community. That's a little bit more. Okay.
I do
And
understand.
you'd be open to doing that. That would
I'm
be,
open. I'm open to that. I'm open to GPS monitoring. Like I said, I'm even open to, even if I could get some sort of program which requires institutional housing outside of this facility. I just feel being in this facility due to my underlying conditions it's medically it's like it's not good for me. And I'm really afraid with the things that I've been through so far, and how things are run here, that I'm gonna honestly lose my life before I leave here. I don't know what else to do. I've been retaliated against for trying to advocate for myself. And
sir, I'm very sorry. Like my colleague said, that we can sympathize, and I'm very sorry those things are happening to you. But we don't, as the Board of Pardons and Appeals, it's our job to determine your suitability to finish your sentence in the community. So I would encourage you to report all those things like you said you have been doing, and you should, and you do have the right to be safe while you're incarcerated, like my colleague said. So, you know, today we're trying to determine your suitability for your release. So those are the things that we have to do. And you know, I'm sorry to hear that you're experiencing all that trouble while you're incarcerated.
I'm embarrassed to admit my involvement in this entire thing.
Yeah, I understand that. And you mentioned shame before, and I can only imagine, right, how that is, and you're trying to express yourself. You know?
To take accountability for what I've done. I'll say that I'm embarrassed to take accountability for what I've done, because it's something that is not that I've never done before, and I would never do it again. I did it.
I know it's difficult, sir, but you know, at some point you're going to have to, in the long-term sex offender program, all these things, you're going to have to make yourself better and to be rehabilitated and corrected. You're going to have to address these issues, and you're like halfway there. That's what I'm sensing. You know what I mean? You're on the right path. I can tell you that, because completed the program, you're starting to deal with the problems, and you know, you just need to finish it and get to the end of this, you know? And I hear you're dealing with a lot of medical problems and other things that are going on there. So I understand it's very difficult. Let me just check and make sure I don't have anything else here. I think my colleague covered all the other things that I wanted to talk about. So for me today, that's all I really had to ask you. I'm going to pass it on to the chair. She may have some questions for you, Madam Chair.
So, Mr. Tolliver, I don't have any questions for you, but just to clarify, you do have 10 years of probation, and DOC is not just going to put you out on the street. A probation officer will come and do an evaluation or interview with you before you go out on probation. So you will know beforehand who your probation officer is and where you will need to report. You indicated that you need to go to a halfway house. So I'm assuming that they will make the proper arrangements to find an appropriate halfway house for you. and will probably have some idea of some reentry program. The person at DOC might be able to assist you with which reentry programs. You say you want to go to New Haven. So I think you're saying things or insinuating that DOC would not provide any assistance, but I don't think they would do that. I think your issues are you need to stop getting disciplinary reports so that you can continue to complete the programs that are on your offender accountability program.
Yes, ma'am. I completely understand that. And I just wanted to explain my DRs. When I had gotten three DRs.
Yeah, but I think you sort of went through that previously and explaining it will not change, what decision we're going to make today because they're already there and we've read them.
Yes, ma'am. I completely understand that. I just wanted to have a chance to add my context to the situation. I did receive DRs, and like I said, I accepted the responsibility that I had in my part, and I could have acted differently. Unfortunately, for one situation where I received 3 tickets, I wasn't in my right mind. My mom had just passed away, and they had destroyed her obituary picture, and I just completely lost it. I apologize for that. And the second situation.
Sorry for the loss of your mother. We understand the DR is there. You've explained your reason for getting it. And we appreciate.
I do accept the fact that I could have handled the situation differently. I just wasn't in the right state.
Okay. All right. So we are now going to deliberate on record and let you know what our decision is. Ms. Turner.
So this is a very challenging case because the nature of the crime is so egregious. And we have Mr. Tolliver struggling with responsibility and accountability. He's got to overcome the shame and the embarrassment and deal with the fact that he needs to get to the bottom of his issues that put him in the position where he chose to violate a child more than once, as our records indicate. He's 32 years old at the time. This was his own daughter. So all of that is intensely concerning. He scores low on the static 99 for his risk to reoffend in a similar nature. And he's a moderate risk on the other instruments. He has a limited criminal history, but back in 2022, he was convicted because he left the scene after striking a bicyclist and killing him. So that we got a pattern of some really poor decision-making on Mr. Tolliver's part.
If you could, ma'am.
Don't say anything, Mr. Tolliver. Remember, I said you can listen but not say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Out of the programs on his OAP, it's most appropriate that he's completed the short track program. Interestingly enough, he gets a very positive evaluation for his time in that program. But while he was in the program, he was evaluated by the Connection. And that was in July. And he was back to not taking any responsibility. So perhaps that was early on in the program, which he finished on the 9th of October. So we got to hope that's the case. He has a lot of compounding risk factors for successful reintegration. and needs a lot of support. I'm not as encouraged as you are about what probation might provide for him when he's back in the community. He looks to be end of sentence, probably by the end of October of this year. So what we would be affording him is a matter of, 10 months of discretionary parole supervision. And that's if they can find him a placement. Between his physical limitations and his sex offender conviction and the 10 years on the registry, that makes halfway house placement rather challenging out in the community. When I came in, I had him denied with a rehear in, May to get him to take the rest of the programs on his OAP, but I'm feeling like the time would better be spent on discretionary parole with a successful transition and accountability for completing problem sexual behavior treatment, getting a mental health evaluation, limiting all of his contact with any minor age children. That's where I am. It's not enthusiastic.
So I came in with straight out denial because he had 10 years of probation. But listening to Mr. Tolliver today, I do agree with you that parole might be a little better. And I think under the circumstances for him, they would have to contact the Department of Disabilities. I don't remember the correct name.
DES.
Yeah, that they would have to do that because halfway house in his case would be very limited, and they would have to have wheelchair access. So there's a lot there that parole might be able to do for him quicker. But I don't think probation, knowing the circumstances, would just allow him to go out on the streets knowing his limitations. But I do agree with you that discretionary parole might be more helpful to him, and they would be willing to
In the long run,
invest the
right.
time.
Yeah, I
to
do
set
worry.
him up.
I do worry that he, as he's explained, with the variety of issues he has, may lose focus on the problem sexual behavior treatment requirement. But, probation can follow up on that as well.
Right.
And ensure he does it.
Yeah. So I do agree with you that that's where my change would be, to grant the discretionary parole. Mrs. Dauskas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so coming in, I also had this as a rehear, but for all the reasons that you've stated, this is like you said, not an enthusiastic decision on my part at all. But I do see in this circumstance that we're dealing with, in this set of facts, that he would benefit from this transitional period. I don't see that he's violated any community release in the past. And he is rated low on a static 99 for these particular kind of offenses to recidivate. So I would be in favor today of granting parole.
Okay.
So I have mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary, problem sexual behavior treatment in the community, no contact with victim, initials ST, and no contact with minors.
So I have.
Okay, I have the same ones. Okay, so in the case of Timothy Tolliver, inmate number 411725, there is a motion to grant discretionary parole on or after December 30th, 2024, with the following conditions: no contact with victim SP, problem sexual behavior treatment, no contact with minors, mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary.
And halfway house.
And halfway house. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, Mr. Tolliver, we wish you the best of luck. And we hope not to see you here again.
Yes, ma'am. I really appreciate
This really is a gift, sir.
It is a gift.
it.
It's a gift. Happy New
Thank-
Year. Make the most of your time on
And
parole.
yes, ma'am. And I just wanted to let you know, even though while I was in New Haven for the hit and run, it was, I have been in mental health treatment. I was off my medication for my panic disorder because I was taking care of my mother with her cancer. And
I read that, Mr. Tolliver, so good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
This concludes the hearing for Timothy Tolliver, 1725. You'll receive all this in writing. Have a good day.
And hallelujah, look at that. Not only does the parole board have the power to release criminals back into
Thank
society,
you.
but apparently they have the power to heal. They fixed his arm that only a moment ago could not function, and now he is healed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the parole board of Connecticut, the shamans of our nation. I'm sorry. I'm sick. If you haven't been able to tell, the kids, they brought me stuff. I was fine, and then I wasn't. I became sick. But after watching this parole hearing, I just had to do it. I just couldn't. I just can't. I just can't. They released him. You know, he only got the 4-year sentence. He had the time served. So, but they still released him a full year early. So what you're telling me is that if you show up to your parole board hearing and you take no accountability, you deny doing the crime, you blame everybody else, you don't take programs, you get write-ups, and you'll be rewarded. Wow. And healed. I forgot. You know. Oof. You just can't make this stuff up. Now, this guy, you know, it's funny too. They didn't catch the crime. They said, well, he only has on his record the time he killed a man and the time he did this to his 5-year-old child. But no, he's done more stuff. They just didn't find it. Sir Richard did. Here's one crime where he got, I don't know if he had just, because this was the appeal was finished in 2008 and it's a different state. So maybe they missed it because of that. It's Wisconsin. But it was 2 counts of armed robbery with use of force. And they sentenced him to 6 years initial confinement and 8 years of extended supervision. So it was a 6-year sentence. So this is not his first rodeo. And as you saw, the whole thing that he killed a man and ran, and they didn't catch him until like a year later, while he's literally serving a few days on that tiny little sentence that he received. Because that was, again, it's hard to remember, but let's just take a step back again. He kills a man. He kills a man on June 21st, 2022. He finally gets arrested for the time he killed a man November 7th, 2021. And what they give him is 8 years jail, but all of it suspended except for 60 days and then probation 5 years. Now, while he's doing just the sum of the days jail for time here, his biological daughter shows up with the and he gets sentenced to 36 months. Why? I mean, like, why is his probation not? Why does he not have to do like all that the years that he's backing in this specific offense? Why not even that? I don't understand this. Then to add insult to injury, they consider him a low risk. He's a low risk to recidivate sexually. Why? I'm so sick and tired of it. I mean, I know many of you've already seen me go through the 10-point questionnaire, so I'm not going to do it again. But if you're wondering what it is so insane about that, you just anyone with common sense. Anyone who doesn't have a PhD, anyone who's not, in a decision-making business with a governor and a state that has to protect children, we don't understand, obviously. But let's just talk it out anyways, for the giggles of it. So his biological daughter, who's 5 years old, he's essaying her, transmits this disease, and then they say, well, it's a low risk. So how that works is that it's a 10-point questionnaire, and in the questionnaire you fill out different things. You say, is this your first victim? And by the way, this 10-point questionnaire, it relies on the honesty of the person filling out the questionnaire. They are not taking data that they know. It's just, sir, is this your first victim? Yes. Okay, then they say, well, is the victim related to you? Yes. When it is related to you, by the way, you don't gain a point. You lose. You're still considered a lower risk. Did you know the victim? Yes. Okay, you're still. Was the victim a boy? No, it's a lower risk. By the way, if it's a boy, they consider it a high risk. Were you in a relationship at the time of this offense with an adult? Yes, they consider that a lower risk, even though like 90% of the crimes are people who are in a relationship. They don't. And then they just say, okay, well, you're a low risk. That's how it works. It's insane, but we don't understand. We're just sheeple. And can you imagine this? The same woman had another child with him while he's locked up, he's like a year ago. She needs to be. It's just I can't. It just can't. Why is this happening? I really feel like I'm losing my mind. I just do. And then, again, further insult to injury, he only needs to register for 10 years. So a monster, the worst of the worst in our society. Forget that he's also killed a man in his past. He only has to register for 10 years, and he only serves. So he kills a man, and it wasn't like a normal hit and run where you hit and then they catch him a day later. It takes him 7 months to catch him. I can't. This isn't normal. And then the parole board, he shows up and he has the worst performance that, one of the worst we've seen maybe. He puts on a whole show. He can't use his arm, which is just, as we see, completely not true. He goes in there completely healthy, and then he's in a wheelchair and his spine problems. And Sir Richard did find some things. He participated in a hunger strike while he was in prison, claiming he wasn't getting the proper attention he needed. And I think he also has a lawsuit. He's the troublemaker in the DOC. You don't really want to, maybe they just were asking the parole board to get him out of there because he's a giant headache. In my opinion, I'll tell you this. In my opinion, he is someone who knows exactly how to manipulate the system. I think he's probably quite intelligent. He knows he knows how to play the game. He knows that he can be in the wheelchair and he doesn't need to do the work programs. He'll be able to do the time how he wants to do the time, the different things with the halfway houses and the whatever. I think he knows exactly what he was doing. And then he was hoping he'd go in here and play the victim card, and it worked. They just fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know if they actually felt bad and but in some strange way, they felt that it made sense for him to be granted. Like, you'd be better. Please. Please. I don't buy it. Just don't. It makes me sick. But I don't know. What else am I missing? It's just, I think what we just saw again is how broken the system is. How they're the two-faced system of the DA. It's like, these victims, they don't have voices. The man he killed, maybe he didn't have family. No one really cared about him. This child, it's just a child, right? Had it been people, had his victims maybe had a little bit more, maybe something else would have happened. But clearly the DAs just saw here that it's just nobody's killing and hurting nobodies. So who cares? That's the only thing, they're just like, who cares? And there you have it. It's not just, we know that evil exists. We know that these monsters exist. But what is unforgivable is the system that allows them to exist and walk amongst us, slither amongst us, to reoffend, to damage. If you don't think he's going to have dozens and dozens of more, this wasn't his first victim. Please, I don't buy it. That's just my opinion. You don't one day wake up and do this to your 5-year-old daughter. And he only needs to register for 10 years. So I don't know. When he's 50 years old, he'll be register free. Because surely we all know that people grow out of these things. And he all claims to have done it completely sober. With that, I'll let you go.
How many times did you violate this child?
One situation. Only one situation.
Okay, that's a little different than what we have documented. I read that you got your emotional needs met by forcing yourself on this child. Why didn't you look to have your emotional needs met in an adult fashion? You were 32 years old. This child was 5.
It was a sense of losing control of myself and the situation at hand.
Okay, were you under the influence?
No, ma'am, I don't drink alcohol.
Okay, so how were you not in control?
Mentally, I wasn't in the right state of mind.